What's up, good people? And you scoundrels. And the scoundrels of the world. Hey, I want to talk to my people in the penitentiary. And this is for Texas and for Alabama, but specific, Alabama, they still got that nonsense going on, that modern day slavery stuff. So we ain't gonna take no money from the people over there. I'm talking to my Texans right now, locked up in the penitentiary, and the TD to the C to the J. You hear me? Serving them terms of confinements. Okay. I want to talk to you about IPOs and also talking to the families and loved ones. It's a common question I get. Goes something like this. Hey, Terry, my loved one just got interviewed by the parole officer on their unit. Okay, so to explain what is actually happening there, that loved one is obviously inside the parole review period, either 4 months or 6 months before that hearing date, right? Depending on whether it's their first time or sometime after their first review. And that parole officer who's coming to interview them is there to check their temperature, so to speak, right? They're there to generally ask questions, get a feel for the inmate being considered for parole, and then they're simply making a recommendation to the board, right? To the board office in Texas. We have 7 different offices around the state. And from there, that's going to go into the inmate's file. Once that's in the inmate's file, the parole panel, the voters, have that IPO. It's called an institutional parole officer, right? They have that IPO's notes of that interview where they came and checked the inmate's temperature. And they said, oh, okay, well, IPO said, hey, Jason Jackson is a terrible candidate for parole. I went there. He was combative. He didn't want to listen. He seemed like he would be a pure headache to have to supervise upon release, right? Or, that they could present a favorable report back to that panel and say, hey, I think this is really a great candidate. This person has really done X, Y, and Z to rehabilitate themselves. And, parole is their best option at that time. They've earned parole, they deserve it. I'm recommending this person make parole. They could come back with something neutral, right? But really, it's either going to be a yes or a no. Maybe they give a flat answer, but in any event, it's either going to be yes, it's getting granted, or denied. It's that simple. So in any event, that's what's happening there. Is you have that institutional parole officer getting a feel for the inmate, and then making a recommendation to the panel who's actually going to vote, because in most circumstances, the vast majority of circumstances, the parole voters, the lead voter, isn't going to go to the prison unit and interview the client, right? So they have that. They have your file, the inmate's file, and then they have any input from the outside, whether that be support letters and things sent in from family members, or that could be parole representation from an attorney, either in person, via Zoom, or just the submission of a packet. But they'll have all those things to consider. So whenever you hear your loved one say, hey, yeah, I got interviewed, I saw parole today, that's what they're talking about. That's an institutional parole officer coming to get a feel for them, see what they're on, and then making a recommendation to the board. That's not the actual voter. And to give a little bit more insight and game on that, that's important because, you don't, I guess to give some practical tips, right? You don't want to get some practical tips, you don't want to go in there with the wrong mentality, right? So another aspect of what they're going to ask is they're going to get a feel for, are you remorseful for your crime? Are you saying it wasn't me at all? They got the wrong person? Or are you in denial, right? Or trying to basically mitigate it down with all these other things? That's a tricky argument. I could address that at another time, but as a general rule, hey man, unless you got extremely valuable, direct, and clear evidence of whatever it is that you're trying to say, nah, it wasn't that, it was this, that's obviously in your favor, you got to come with it, because they don't want to hear what it wasn't and what you didn't do at this point, right? And if you are saying that, that's okay. Sometimes you need to say that. Sometimes that message needs to be get put out because it's the truth. But if you don't got it, now you got to risk and put yourself in their position. How many people do they interview a day? How many people tell them, hey, it wasn't me, I wasn't the trigger guy, it was this person was the trigger guy, or, you know, they got the wrong person altogether, or that was my girlfriend and she was really hitting on me and called the laws on me, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it might be, don't put that out there if you don't got the ammunition to go forward with that point, right? They don't want to hear that dry. Yeah, because, you know, that could hurt you a lot, or that can put the board on notice that, hey, again, this is a serious case. There's some fishy stuff going on with it, and y'all need to really dig and consider this person with extra attention. So I'm trying to think, do I got anything else to say on these IPO interviews? That's really it, man. No need to ramble. It's what it is. Attorney Terry Henderson Peden. I do parole work, civil rights work, criminal defense, personal injury, employment and labor law. Whatever you might need in the state of Texas or Alabama, holler at me, okay? My phone number is 334-544-9471. 334-544-9471. Serving Texas and Alabama. Holler at me. Peace. Bless.